turns that he's going to try and have to find in combination with Rainbow Energy to take some big swings in the game.
So yeah, this is really unusual considering what we've seen so far today, where the Lightning decks have been primarily Pikachu and Zekrom based. So talk to me about why would Robin choose to bring a deck featuring Shrine of Punishment and all one prize attackers rather than going for the straight up powerhouse that is Pikachu and Zekrom?
Yeah, I think it's intricate really. The Zapdos can do such great early game pressure that's going to help you take single prizes throughout the game in pretty much every matchup. And then you have these big turns that you can force the Sledgehammer, which is such a big swing card when there is Pikachu and Zekrom and Zoroark around. Because you're all non-GXs, you can make it much more difficult for the opponent to play around these Sledgehammer plays, and it just makes you have such favorable prize trades as you continue through the game. You only need 1 or 2 big one-hit KOs to be very far ahead.
There is just an abundance of GX Pokemon running around right now, so the Shrine of Punishments will very likely put in some work for Robin here in this matchup. Pikachu and Zekrom GX, of course, on the side of Klive, alongside that Tapu Koko GX and the Zeraora GX, which we've seen be very effective so far.
So Robin seeing a Absol might make him think that it could be a number of decks still, of course, but he may be seeing maybe he's in some sort of a mirror match situation. Pikachu and Zekrom GX often plays this Absol, so he's already got a good indication of what he's up against, even though he's just seeing a tech card. But he's got a fairly awkward opening Ultra Ball here, a Choice Band and a Shrine of Punishment, both big cards for him. But he is at least got a few other options for him. He doesn't play anything like the Marshadow for Let Loose, or obviously no Tapu Lele GX here, so if he doesn't have... Oh, he just has a Lily in his hand, so his hand is still pretty strong this turn. He does commit 1 Rainbow Energy. Keeping track of these is going to be huge in this matchup, because he's going to want to guarantee 1 for his Sledgehammer Buzzwole turn. But for now, a big Lily is a nice start for him.
Yeah, obviously he would love to keep around the Choice Band and the Shrine for later on, but he does run 3 copies of each, so getting rid of them early, not going to be too painful. It's very likely he finds them later on for when it really matters.
We're going to see Robin straight away go for a Nest Ball. That's going to help him get his own Absol down. He identifies someone else playing an Absol, which means he's at the very least not up against a Zoroark variant most of the time, because they're going to try and use Muck to try and deny Jirachi. So he's anticipating someone else is going to be using Jirachi. So he wants to establish the Absol. Especially when you go first, you can't get the first prize. Your priority is to deny the opponent, if ever you can, their own first prize. And he, because of this Absol, he doesn't really want to attach the escape board to Blitzel, because he would then potentially strand his own Jirachi. So Klive just leading this Absol, already causing headache for Robin here.
Yeah, and the fact that both Absols are in play, meaning that the Jirachis are going to be much more difficult to weave in and out of play here, meaning that this game is likely to get off to a bit of a slower start.
Especially when Robin can only find himself another Guzma and an Electro Power, not exactly what he was after there. He's currently supporterless in terms of a drawing sense. So this Jirachi not quite firing on all cylinders, but at least he has his own Absol down, so it's fairly likely that his own Jirachi may still stick around, depending on what Klive has in his opening hand. But Robin with a pretty good start with a number of basics on the board, and he's going to have to flip to see if he's awake from his Jirachi.
And he is not. Not finding a draw supporter there. Yes, his first turn was still quite nice. He's got good setup with his Zapdos on the bench and his own Absol in play. He would have really liked... Actually, no, he lilied.
Yeah, he lilied
turn
on
1, so, but
it's
finding a draw supporter for the following turn.
Right, and if Klive is able to just get quite an easy, Nest Ball for a Zapdos, attach and find a switch, that's Robin's only Jirachi being knocked out, and Robin then has his own headache of trying to use Guzma plays for his own Zapdos, so it's not ideal for Robin, especially after this whiff with the Jirachi. And it's down to Klive to see if he can get some early pressure of his own down. I think when you see an army of non-GXs on Robin's side of the field, he has to try and be quite conservative in this matchup as well. I think that Blitzel's a big giveaway that Robin's build is going to be more non-GX focused rather than something like Jolteon GX based. So Klive's going to have to play quite conservatively, and we may not even see Pikachu Zekrom GX at all throughout the game, maybe very late on, if at all.
Yeah, perhaps a little bit too much of a liability. You don't want a 3 prize card swing at any point in time until maybe you have your opponent with less than 3 prize cards remaining.
Exactly. Yeah, and here we're going to see Klive. He is going to Ultra Ball away his own Viridian Forest as well as a Guzma. I think he already has a switching card in his hand, so he may be just hoping to knock out this Jirachi, maybe better than him trying to target down a Blitzel, for example.
Seems to make sense. There's only the one copy of Zebstrika in the deck for Robin. So maybe take out the primary threat right now, which is that Jirachi, which just threatens consistency. However, Robin does have 3 additional Jirachi in the deck, so it is quite likely that he can find access to another one, or at least Klive can assume that. Looking at Robin's hand right now, that's not the case.
Right, exactly. So Klive guaranteeing that switch, giving himself an 8-card Lily here. He's found himself an Eevee. It's something we saw really used well last round from Clifton. And it's a tech 1-1 line in Klive's list as well. That could come into play to maybe potentially try and jump over some Sledgehammer turns or potentially avoid some damage from a Buzzwole just by using a Swift Run GX attack during the game. So it'll be interesting to see how Klive tries to play this matchup, because it feels like Robin's list will always have this as its plan A, whereas this is Klive's plan B for most of the game. So Robin should, in theory, be more consistent at doing what Klive's trying to do to sort of keep up. But at the very least, Klive's taking the first prize here.
Yeah, that is kind of what we've seen from the Pikachu and Zekrom builds so far on stream. The only time they're actually able to execute plan A is when they're playing in a straight-up mirror where the opponent is also playing Pikachu and Zekrom. Otherwise, it can be almost too dangerous to even put that Pokemon on the board. And in a lot of cases, we're seeing them go with Zapdos as being that plan B. But at least, you know, to Klive's credit, he does have the 1-1 line of Jolteon GX, which gives him an alternate plan of attack that isn't quite so liable to, you know, big damage knockouts and giving the opponent 3 prizes like Pikachu and Zekrom.
So we see Robin identifying the Absol as the pain in the neck for him, because he wants to be using Jirachis as often as possible with Stellar Wish. He already has the Electro Power. He drops the Zebstrika and sprints into a fresh 4-card hand. Really strong turn for him to try and respond on Klive's Absol, especially because Pikachu and Zekrom-based builds are way less likely to play Rescue Stretchers, so that threat might be just gone for the rest of the game now.
Yeah, just the 1 copy in the deck for Klive. Sort of intended to stick around on the bench and be protected at all times, but obviously that wasn't the case here with that Electro Power in hand from Robin, able to target down the Absol very quickly. But we see Energy Evolution and the Eevee pulling out that Jolteon.
We're going to see him continue to play cards, the Energy Switch, meaning that he might, well, as soon as you see Robin put down the Buzzwole on his side of the field and Klive looking to go to 4 prize cards, you know that a Swift Run GX is going to be Klive's turn of choice here. Lilying back up into what looks to be just a bunch of energy cards, so not ideal for him. But this Swift Run GX does put a question towards Robin, make him have a Guzma, and also it means Klive can quite easily navigate around a Sledgehammer. So we are indeed seeing the Swift Run GX attack here to respond on the Zapdos, and it means that Robin's Buzzwole is only going to be effective at knocking out maybe something like a Jirachi, which is much less worrying for Klive.
Yeah, and I mean, this is exactly what Clifton was talking about in his interview after his win in the previous match. Jolteon GX, kind of unassuming, it was popular in Japan quite a bit, and we were seeing it be really hyped up over the last couple of weeks, and now we're seeing it sort of being a supportive Pokemon in a deck featuring Pikachu and Zekrom rather than the main threat. But still, having the ability to gain immunity from all damage for a single turn means that you can take a knockout on a big Pokemon or even take 2 knockouts with this, and it is actually quite threatening.
You get a lot of versatility just from these 3 different attacks that the Jolteon GX provides. I think it just makes sense for it to be a 1-1 line in the deck, especially because the Eevee's ability makes it so easy just to, as we've seen, it just bursts out of nowhere sometimes. Yeah,
and it's not necessarily going to hit those big numbers by itself, but when you're playing a deck with 4 Electro Powers with a bunch of choice bands, then suddenly you can easily hit, 170 and knock out a Tapu Lele GX.
Yeah, it gets there. It gets there quite often, and usually on the cheap as well, compared to the likes of Pikachu and Zekrom GX. So in games like these, Klive isn't going to run out of fuel, even though he doesn't need to put down any Tag Team GX Pokemon until maybe very late in the game alongside some Coco Prism Star plays. Robin now, he needs to dig for energy cards here. He has no draw support. I still believe he has Sprint to go, though. He has Ultra Balled away Lily and Cynthia. So he's looking to, well, he has to Guzma around this turn because he always wants to be taking 1 prize knockout. So that's why you're seeing him get rid of draw support. Because he wants to sprint into energy, if he can do, alongside a Guzma play. Alternatively is find something like Volkner for Escape Rope, and then he could guarantee a Lightning Energy as well. So nothing there from his second Stellar Wish. So it's a little bit awkward for him right now.
Shrine not looking too good because he wants to get the knockout onto this Jolteon GX. Electro Powers, not quite cutting it here.
No, and it's one of these things where he's sprinting away at the same time as well, I think. So that would be really awkward if he's just throwing away some resources like this.
Yeah.
But again, you're in a non-GX kind of matchup. There's already a lot of Jirachis on the field, so there's plenty of like easy enough prizes for Robin to take. We are going to see him go for the Guzma right now, back into the Jirachi. He hasn't retreated just yet, of course, because he's used a switch so far, and now Guzma. So both Jirachis have used their abilities, and ooh, no energy cards for Robin. That is a rough
painful.
turn. That's really rough. Jolteon GX doing its job here. Swift Run, even though it was thrown to the bench, it still denied a Robin taking any prizes this turn. And he's not able to reuse Jirachi here, because I believe he's used 2 attempts.
I believe he Stellar Wished, and then he switched and Stellar Wished again.
We need to make sure that that's, because resetting it to the bench and putting it back active, I'm not sure if it lets you.
I don't know if it
reuse
actually
the
resets
ability.
the Stellar Wish.
It resets attacks, but it shouldn't reset abilities, because
Maybe
otherwise you'd be doing that with Zoroark pretty much every game.
Maybe he did not Stellar Wish
Potentially
with the first
he didn't.
one.
It may have just
I
been,
only saw
yeah.
him do it with the second one. It is possible that he never did with the first one.
We're just going to see from
In
the
which
judges.
case, this would be...
I believe this is not a possibility for him. And yeah, we are going to see. The judges have caught it in time for us.
So he did Stellar Wish with the first Jirachi,
Right.
then switched to Retreat, and then Stellar Wish with the second. So this would be his second time in the turn with the same Jirachi.
Yeah. Resetting attacks, not abilities. Because
Yeah, it would be a little bit
just imagine Zoroark
abusable.
doing that.
Just a little bit.
That would be pretty insane. So Robin now having to make do with just passing with a Buzzwole in the active. He has given Klive the headache of leaving a chunky 2 retreat cost Zapdos, but we can see Klive's already got a reasonable amount of answers in his own hand here with Guzma already. And he may even be eyeing up something like the Zebstrika to just take that away from Robin as well.
Just limit the options. You don't want Robin to be able to sprint every single turn, especially since Klive saw that he did not play an energy last turn. So Klive can reasonably assume that Robin's hand is not great right now.
We do need to get some Shrine of Punishment damage on this board as well, actually, for the Jolteon GX. It looks like
it looks like Klive's just forgetting about that.
Wish. Yeah, and
should be
Robin really
2
needs that
damage
as well.
on it right now. 1 or 2 damage.
This will just be 1 at the moment.
Yeah,
but
and then 2 when Klive
190
passes back.
is way more important than 200 because it's like a electro power. But there they are. We're in good stead now. Klive does have that Guzma already in his hand. I've got to imagine it's going to be either a Jirachi or a Zebstrika that gets taken out here. Klive's going to do the favor of putting Thunder Mountain Prism Star into play. He already has plenty of energies on his own side of the field in terms of his own attackers, unless he's trying to burst a new attacker onto his own board. He's actually going to try and pick up the Absol here and just take the knockout. So again, he's also feeling the effects of not being able to use his own Jirachis. So I don't mind this either, especially if you're going to put the Thunder Mountain Prism Star into play, which I'm not super certain why he did in terms of 190 and 180 isn't too big of a difference. But
yeah, so not a real drive to want to take that Shrine of Punishment out of the equation. Robin only does have the 1 copy left available to him now. But yeah, like you were saying, 190 versus 180, rather inconsequential. 200 is where you're starting to see those really awkward numbers.
So Robin now doesn't need to find energy, thanks to the Thunder Mountain coming into play. So at least that's something checked off his list this turn. He can start trying to work towards other pieces for future turns.
Generally in these matchups where you can both benefit from a stadium, you want to think, does my opponent benefit from this more than I do at this point? And to me, it seems like the answer to that is yes.
Yeah, potentially it could be, for sure. We're going to see Robin now nest balling out Tapu Koko Prism Star. He might be trying to get his 1 GX Pokemon out this turn. His Tapu Koko GX is something that Robin does play, and it's the easiest thing that can reach towards this Jolteon GX, because nothing else really will do here. He also has the option to simply Guzma up a Jirachi, but he's so behind in the prize race thanks to that Swift Run GX attack that I feel like Robin just continuing on the Zapdos route is going to be a little bit slow here.
He's also just got a full bench right now, so he can't bring out the Tapu Koko GX even if he can find it.
He can use the Prism Star. Pop
yeah,
it
but then he can't.
Yeah, he can Aero
put
Trail.
the energy onto.
He can just Aero Trail and get it up, all in one. You can use the Koko Prism first and then Aero Trail all the energies onto it.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Well, he's found himself Shrine of Punishment, which he'll just grab to hand for now. I still think we are whiffing on energy cards.
Yeah, he found a pair of rainbows off of the Stellar Wish, but he can't grab those.
So, Just the Shrine. I feel like Robin's deck hasn't been... Well, his Jirachis have been a little bit awkward overall. He dealt with the Absol, so he could use these as often as possible, and they've just not really done the job for him right now. We may be seeing even something like an Escape Rope again. This Jolteon is just so awkward for him at the moment. He's trying to build towards a Tapu Koko GX maybe in a future turn, and we are going to see that Escape Rope get played this turn.
Klive switches first, then Robin switches.
And it's just going to be a simple Thunderous Assault for a knockout, but Robin can't be super pleased with this. Oh, wow.
Plays
He's actually
Shrine of
going to do
Punishment
this
that he
in
can't
sprint.
actually... Yeah, can't attack unless he finds an energy here for the Zapdos.
Yeah, it's a big risk. He gets
picks up
himself
the
a rainbow. Thank goodness for that. After whiffing once, you'd feel like you'd not want to try and risk it again.
I don't know that I would have gone for that.
No, he even had the option
That's
to
scary.
use the Koko Prism Star before the rope as well. Oh, look, there's no energy in his discard pile. Wow.
I mean, he just has had access to very little energy
Just
this
rainbow
game.
energies so far, yeah. That's
And he's
pretty
only got
insane.
one in the prizes. It's not like he's got 4 lightning energy in the prizes, and that's why he's been stranded without it this game. He just has had, like you were saying, some really awkward Stellar Wishes. And a couple turns where he just hasn't had access to supporters.
Back over to Klive now. Both Absols currently off the board for one another, so these Jirachis are back into good shape, as we are going to see him kick off his turn with a Stellar Wish here. Looks like he's eyeing up only really a Rescue Stretcher. Not sure if he actually has a switching option available to him. He's taken a risk here using Stellar Wish. I think the payoff was so huge because any draw supporter or any switch card was good, but whiffing... Oh, he does get himself
there's
a
an escape board
skateboard.
there.
It's nice and golden for him.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Clive's got serious style. I mean, everything except for those stretchers, I think, is blinged out.
Yeah, fair play. And
Gotta respect that.
yeah, he can just continue on his quest with this Jolteon potentially, or again, he could be eyeing up more Zapdos pressure. I think right now, the Jolteon's the only thing that can take a one-hit knockout. So he may have to start putting that in the line of fire again, which gets a little more awkward now the Shrine is starting to rack up. It gets slowly into range of Robin, and he also has to be concerned about attaching extra energy cards because, again, it plays towards a Tapu Thunder GX attack. So we're going to see him forego any manual attachment here, and he's just going to go for a Head Bolt for a knockout and go down to just 2 prize cards remaining.
Not the strongest attacker, but all of Robin's Pokemon are rather fragile. So Jolteon GX looking to get the job done here, even in the absence of Pikachu and Zekrom.
Robin's eyeing up Rescue Stretcher, and it looks like his main target is going to be Absol here. I think he's already got something like Nest Ball in his hand, because I'd be surprised to see him not guarantee an attacker here, unless it is going to be a Koko GX coming into play this turn. He's got some interesting decisions ahead of him this turn. It's a difficult game to navigate at this point. Klive is at 4 prize cards, so Nihilego might even be in play, but there's a couple Rainbows already played, and only Beast Energy currently in his hand. So this Nest Ball may end up being a whiff here. Depends how he wants to try and navigate this. It's a
This
rough
entire
turn.
game has just been marked by Robin not having access to the resources that he needs, primarily energy.
I think the big turning point was just Swift Run GX not being answered. Even
Yeah.
a single prize knockout would have kept Robin relatively close and like not out of touching distance of this game, but now he's in pretty bad shape. He's going to reset a couple Zapdos and a Jirachi as well now, having already used Nest Ball to scout through his own deck. So we'll see if he's going to try and do some sprinting shenanigans to get himself into a slightly more usable hand here, because he needs a lot of pieces if he's going to start threatening Klive's Jolteon GX anytime soon. The only good thing for him right now is that, again, he's an all non-GX deck, so he can simply keep his board as non-GXs for now, and he's guaranteed himself an extra turn unless there's, again, random 6 energy Pikachu and Zekrom coming from nowhere.
He finally finds a Rainbow and a Lightning, but has to Cynthia them back into the deck.
So with the Beast Energy attachment to the Buzzwole, he's going to be looking hard for a Choice Band this turn, looking for Sledgehammer. With Beast and Choice Band can knock out this active thanks to some prior Shrine damage. That's definitely what he's after. He's still got a Jirachi to hunt as well, so he's got essentially an 11-card dig here after Sprint and now Cynthia. And currently not there.
Does find the Tapu Koko GX.
That's an alternate route, but you can't actually move the Beast Energy, so this is
No.
a big Stellar Wish for him. I don't think he even had any other switching cards off the Jirachi. Electro Power's not going to be the one. That's not Choice Band. Some big whiffs from Robin this game. Wow,
super,
11
super
card dig as
awkward.
well. It feels like a Zoroark deck when you see 11.
Yeah.
Well, he actually saw 15 cards this turn with Sprint Cynthia and
I mean,
Jirachi, and he missed.
Remember that he did choose to throw away a choice band very
Yes.
early on, so he was working with only 2 in the deck now. But even still, the deck's getting rather thin at this point. You would think that when you're digging through
That's
probably
rough.
more than half of the remaining deck that you're going to be able to find probably what you're looking for, but Electropower not going to work in combination with the Buzzwole, so he can't go for a Sledgehammer knockout through weakness on the Jolteon.
No, he's just going to try and get as much damage as he can onto it, doing 120, 130 with more Shrine ticking along, but it's just not ideal for Robin. I think his own list, because he's not playing any of these big GX attackers other than Coco GX, he needs to get things working like all at once. He needs to have this combination of Electro Powers, or he needs to have the combination of Beast Energy and Choice Band. He can dig really deep into his deck thanks to the Zeb Striker and these Jirachis, but he's missed a couple key turns here, and although he's an all non-GX deck, he's really been a little bit slow to the mark here.
And his deck does have the advantage of course, only having 1 prize attackers, but then there are specific cards that only work with specific Pokemon. So it is going to naturally just be a little bit more inconsistent in that way.
Yeah, it really has, like the Buzzwole has basically just been shoehorned into the deck because it's a good type right now. It has no real synergy with his list at all, other than the fact that Jirachi can retreat into it, I guess. But
like you're running the Absol, the Nihilego, and the Buzzwole, and then you have to have 4 Rainbow Energies just to be able to attack.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a really big commitment just to have 1 Pokemon with a type advantage.
And typically you just see Zapdos alongside Zeb Strikers to attack with, or alongside Jolteon GX to attack with as well, if not just Pikachu and Zekrom. Here he's just said, you know what, I don't need synergy with these non-GXs, I just need options with these non-GXs, and hope that on the key turns they're going to get the most value possible, and he's not been able to get the full value that he's been after.
Dance of the Ancients moving Tapu Koko GX to the Lost Zone, but only 1 Lightning Energy in the discard for Klive. He's going to attach that to the Zero Aura that he just played.
It's a little bit awkward for Klive. He was looking to see if there was another Lightning Energy in there for him. Nothing yet, so he is just going to fire off a Cynthia here. Jolteon GX heavily damaged now. It's looking pretty fragile at this point. He's trying to set up a Zero Aura GX because the Zapdos is so far away from knocking out a Buzzwole, thanks to 130 base hit points. And already some Electro Powers played on Klive's side. He's hoping to get a big knockout with a Zero Aura GX here, with some energy switch shenanigans potentially.
Both players are potentially 2 knockouts away from winning the game. But for Robin, that's going to be much more difficult to attain. Like you were saying, Jolteon heavily damaged within knockout range, but then we're looking at the Zero Aura GX being the last 2 prize cards for Robin, and that is going to be really difficult, considering if this Buzzwole's gone, he suddenly just has to get that Tapu Koko GX down, and that would be his only remaining attacker, really.
Ooh, we're seeing a big retreat from Klive here. He's going to use Stellar Wish. He gets himself Escape Rope.
He is spooked.
Yeah. Escape Rope could be pretty huge here, though. I think Robin's Tapu Koko Prism Star is the only thing that Klive can't one-hit KO here. So it'll be interesting to see if Robin is going to identify that and send up the Tapu Koko Prism. Klive was digging pretty hard for an Electro Power there, I believe.
The last thing that Robin wants is the Koko to be trapped in the active, though.
We'll see how Klive's going to try and navigate this turn. He still has the last chance saloon of Let Loose if he wants to go towards that route.
I don't know that he wants to reset this hand. It's not bad.
We're going to see a Rescue Stretcher first. He's going to just get back a Jirachi. I think because he has Switch and Escape Rope now, he can have a second dig. The Rope is going to be played first. Robin immediately knows that this is the thing that Klive has to dig towards in order to take a knockout. They're just debating whether or not they need to shuffle before the previous Stellar Wish. I believe the deck was shuffled.
I thought that it was.
Yeah, we'll just see a cut regardless.
Okay, sure.
And Stellar Wish number 2 now. That is a nice gold
Power.
Electro Power.
That is beautiful.
So Klive guaranteeing himself down to 1 prize card remaining. And with a Zero Aura GX in the back now with 2 energy on its own, it feels pretty set in stone that he's going to be able to take this last... Oh, he needs to show the
he
switch
needs to
that
actually
he has. He has it all.
put something in place so he can retreat the Jirachi. But that is going to be the knockout onto the Tapu Koko with the Jolteon GX, thanks to the Electro Power that Klive was able to find off of Stellar Wish. So this Jolteon now will be knocked out by Robin. But then Klive just needs to take one more knockout to win the game.
And this is the problem with Robin's build. He has nothing that's all that tanky. Everything's non-GX other than a Tapu Koko GX, but even then, Shrine of Punishment is in play, so it would still require just one energy attachment from Zeraora GX. Klive's done very well to identify when he needed to get the second GX onto the board. He was ahead enough in the game to not find this as a problem, and now he just has a backup attacker that can deal with pretty much anything Robin has here.
I think there should be damage counter on the Zeraora from the Shrine of Punishment, but probably not consequential.
I think it's, yeah, I mean, it obviously should be there, but it's...
We'll see if it actually ends up factoring in.
We're going to see Robin attaching to his Zeb Striker, and yeah, Klive, all he has to do is show off the Lightning Energy, and that's going to be game one to him. Really interesting to see, because usually you would imagine that a Pikachu Zekrom player has less pieces than Robin would, an all non-GX deck that's playing a full 4 copies of Jirachi, Klive just playing 2 copies of Jirachi. But the big factor there, the big difference, was the use of Jolteon GX. It was absolutely huge this game. Using the Swift Run GX attack to avoid the Sledgehammer was huge, and Robin, unable to find an energy card to take a single prize, meant that Klive was very, very far ahead thanks to that attack.
Yeah, the whole point of Robin's deck, like you were saying, it's much less tanky, but you're hoping to be able to, with a 1-prize attacker, take 2 prizes off of a single Pokemon from your opponent, and then even though you're going to be trading knockouts from there on, you will automatically end up being ahead. So for Robin, he was never able to get to that point of even parity where they were trading knockouts back and forth. He was just always going to be quite a bit behind because he wasn't able to find the right energy when he needed it. He had Electro Power instead of Choice Band to take a knockout with the Buzzwole. It was just a really awkward game. Things really just not coming together for him. So certainly he would like to have a much more consistent showing in game number 2 here. But we're going to see if Robin can maybe turn things around this time. That is going to be one mulligan for him, however. Is Klive going to start out with an extra card if he chooses?
He gets a freebie, but Klive has actually started a GX Pokemon. That's something that Robin's always going to have to cross his fingers for. If he starts a Pikachu Zekrom especially, I think he's just led with a Zeraora GX here, because Robin wants to get this Shrine of Punishment damage ticking over throughout the game, get some value here and there, put them into a nice range of just a couple Electro Powers for a Zapdos, or get them into range of a Buzzwole attack. These are the things he needs to do to one-up Klive, because Klive was very disciplined at keeping as many non-GXs on the board as possible. The only GX for the majority of the game was the Jolteon that can protect itself. So he's done very well to identify what he needs to do in this matchup, and it's going to be down to Robin to see if his Power Spike turns can be pulled off this game.
Robin going to be starting Tapu Koko Prism in the active this time. His 1 Absol is prized. So he's not going to be able to shut down Jirachi unless he digs that out of the prize cards early on.
So it looks like Klive picked up from his free mulligan the Jirachi. So it's such a shame that it wasn't the card before. But Robin does at least have a reasonable Ultra Ball here. Again, have to stress that he's not playing Tapu Lele GX or Marshadow for Let Loose. He is all in on trying to use Stellar Wish, so that's why we're seeing this opening Ultra Ball for 1 Jirachi here. He's going to have to try and maybe even pay retreat out of this Tapu Koko Prism Star just to get a Stellar Wish off, because again, he's found himself into an awkward spot already on turn 1.
Again, both of these players at 4-0 so far. It's an absolutely incredible record. But through 9 rounds of Swiss, they're likely looking at 7-2 being the necessary record to break into day number 2. Perhaps some 6-3s, but we're going to have to see how that ends up playing out based on tiebreakers and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. They want to be in as much safe of a position as possible, and they've got themselves to 4-0, so that's no bad start for them, the best it can be. But slipping up in, we're still midway through the tournament, so it can still go one way or the other for both of these players, and Robin missing Supporter is very ugly for him. None of these cards being all that helpful. He's just going to grab himself a Choice Band. It's really not the card that he's after right now. He might be using it just to have a card to discard here. He's going to get rid of an Electro Power and a Choice Band. Some of these damage ramp potential cards are really awkward to see hitting the discard pile. I think he might be looking just for another Jirachi here. And yeah, that's exactly what he goes for. He's held on to and a skateboard as his last card, but he already has retreated his Tapu Koko Prism Star, so he's just trying to make sure he's not completely dead in the water if Klive is able to go for early Zapdos pressure, as he did in Game 1.
Yeah, really feeling the pain of choosing not to run those Tapu Lele GXs. They can be quite fragile in certain matchups, and you don't want to just have them sitting on the bench for your opponent to take 2 prizes off of at some point. But, you know, not being able to Ultra Ball into a Lele to Wonder Tag for a draw supporter on turn 1 means that Robin's just consistently making these weaker plays than Klive, and he really can't afford to do that.
Yeah, especially when his Jirachis are missing. Like, Jirachi's the best thing for
Ideally,
you, but yeah.
you can choose not to run Tapu Lele because you're
Yes.
running 4 Jirachi, and I mean, what are the chances that you don't hit a draw supporter off of Stellar Wish if you're doing it twice in a turn?
Yeah.
Well, if you're Robin, apparently reasonably high.
When you think about it, it's 8 cards, and then you can get a Jirachi into the active, and then you see 13 cards. You feel like you're going to see a supporter when he's playing reasonable amounts of Lilies and Cynthias. It's just in these situations, the first turn for both these games, it's just not happened for him. And Klive, once again, he saw how powerful the Eevee was in Game 1. He's going straight for it. He's going to use that energy evolution ability on his Eevee straight into Jolteon GX. It has such a great turn 1 attack as well. This time he's not going for Zapdos turn 1 pressure. Instead, he's going for Jolteon out the gate here.
It makes perfect sense. Next turn, he can just start attacking for 110. He can Swift Run when it is applicable. We saw last game that came in very handy in the face of Sledgehammer from a Buzzwole.
Yeah, and this is a lot more safe again for him. It has free retreat even if there wasn't Absol to hit the field, so this gives him a good amount of options for next turn, even though his hand, again, both players are kind of on a knife edge in terms of they're both really reliant on these Stellar Wishes to keep them in good shape here. I think that's why Klive didn't go for a Zapdos, just because his hand doesn't take him very far. So you don't want to have a Zapdos on your board as like your only threat, because it could just be knocked out so easily, and then you need to, you know, draw into more Pokemon to attack with. The Jolteon's going to stick on the board for a lot longer, and that's like the big selling point of this 1/1 Jolteon GX line.
Robin is going to get a full 6 cards with the Lily that he found off of Stellar Wish. So a little bit of breathing room for him. He does find a Cynthia for next turn, potentially. And, of course, can retreat with that escape board, potentially bring up the second Jirachi this turn in Stellar Wish yet again.
Gets himself a nice Zapdos. He doesn't draw energy, but he does have the Tapu Koko Prism Star, which he'll have to pop early here. The Dance of the Ancients, such a powerful ability. We've said it so often already throughout the day. We're going to see him nest balling for his second Zapdos.
Yeah. Dance of the Ancients onto the 2-benched Zapdos, and then retreat out the Jirachi and take a knockout on Robin or on Klive's active Jirachi.
Yeah, makes perfect sense for me. His second Stellar Wish, well, the Stellar Wish turn 2 was a lot more kind for him. He was able to get into Lily, and now he's looking, you know, like a regular turn 2 for him, getting that early pressure on with Thunderous Assault. His hand is looking pretty usable for the future turns. He has supporters and electro powers, so he might be again threatening the Jolteon even if he's able to get enough damage buff cards as he does retreat and just deal with Klive's only Jirachi here.
And he does find the Absol off of his prizes. So when he benches that, that means that Klive's not going to have access to that Stellar Wish ability off of Jirachi anymore, at least until he takes the time to knock out the Absol.
Yeah, and Klive now, he's going to use Electro Power. Thanks to weakness, he can knock out this Zapdos immediately in response, which is already a good thing to have secured here. We're then going to see him use his own Nest Ball. Scanning through his deck, I'm not sure if he has access to another Jirachi or even if he wants to put one down at this point. He could even just be putting down maybe a Zapdos to get an attachment onto. But you're always concerned about Tapu Koko GX from Robin's side. A little bit less so now that the Koko Prism Star's been used, but there's at the very least like 1 energy on his board, and there's always the chance of Thunderous. The Thunder Mountain Prism Star Stadium cards. So there's so much burst potential. Yeah, there's so much burst potential from both decks that you're playing around things that maybe your opponent's hand is nowhere close to, but if their hand just happened to be close to these pieces, you have to be prepared for so many things. And it looks like he's just going to attach a second energy, but still go for the Electro Bullet, because he already had the knockout secured, and he puts Robin's second Zapdos in range of his own Zapdos now, so pretty cute play from Klive there.
Yeah, he didn't necessarily have to play the Electro Power and go for Electro Bullet for knockout this turn, but if he can spread to the Zapdos on the bench and then set that within knockout range, it is worth using that single copy this turn, especially since he's playing 4.
Yeah, it makes sense, especially because Robin's pretty much always going to be promoting this Zapdos this turn. He's not on a Sledgehammer turn, so it feels like it's always just going to be a Thunderous Assault from Robin. It's whether he's going to be swinging into a Jolteon GX in this case, or if he wants to try and maybe deal with a Jirachi and hope that, again, Sledgehammer could come in clutch for him. The difference now for Robin is that if he's able to work towards a Buzzwole turn, there's actually a second GX Pokemon on Klive's field this time. So the Swift Run GX is going to be way less impactful. He can protect his energy cards in this case, but Robin would still be able to gust around and take a 2-prize knockout on the Zeraora. So Robin's going to be working towards that, where he's already looking to gust around this Jolteon this turn. He wants to have gust again the following turn. So he's trying to just get as many switching cards available to him in this hand here while he retreats into his second Jirachi. Shrine of Punishment, Lily, not the biggest of cards here. We haven't seen a supporter just yet from him, but if he is working towards a Buzzwole play next turn, maybe his line is just to hit the active for 80 and then force a Swift Run GX from Klive, and then he can try and gust and deal with a Zeraora GX next turn. It's not bad for him at all, to be honest, and Robin hasn't seen anything like Max Potion or Racer Roller from Klive, so there's no real reason for him to be playing around it too much at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying in the previous game, the reason that Robin got so far behind is because he wasn't able to take advantage of the turn that Klive did use Swift Run. So if Robin can, as you're saying, gust around it this time, get some knockouts even in the face of Jolteon not being able to take any damage, then he can maintain the pressure, he can maintain the momentum that he's gotten so far this game, and then really make use of the fact that Klive can only take 1 prize for each of his knockouts.
And Robin set this up really nicely now. Klive is essentially pigeonholed into having to use Swift Run GX this turn, and we saw Robin's already taken an escape rope for next turn, so Klive needs to bench some other stuff straight away. He's got himself a Rescue Stretcher for a Jirachi, which could be a big deal for him, and he's also got a Lily that he's holding on to, so he's got a few playable cards here before he can lower his hand size and get a bit of Lily value going this turn, but as we say, he's already pretty much pigeonholed into one option this turn, thanks to how Robin's deck functions.
He's going to shuffle the Jirachis back into the deck instead of pulling one and playing it immediately. Can't use the ability because of Absol on Robin's bench, so you might as well just shuffle him back in for use later on.
It's a big worry, though, because there's the escape rope, and if Klive doesn't hit any other Pokemon here, the escape rope would force the Zeraora into the active. So
it's quite a risk.
It's a small risk that he's taken. It's only a Lily for 4 cards. And there's a bunch of Pokemon he doesn't want to bench. And yeah, he hasn't hit any other Pokemon here. So the escape rope from Robin is going to be absolutely monstrous if his Cynthia can pull into a Buzzwole GX turn. So Robin set up this perfectly. He's forced Klive to Swift Run, and Robin's already prepared with the answers. He can use a couple Jirachis, look for Nest Balls, maybe even get there with some Electro Powers. He's holding on to 2 already. So this is an awkward turn for Klive here. A small Lily draw. And
I mean, yeah, I guess Klive is forced to take the knockout here. You don't want to just go a turn without knocking out a Pokemon when you can take that knockout, but that, of course, does put Klive at 4 prizes and mean that Robin can get that revenge knockout.
And Robin
it was
already
Swift
knows.
Run GX, as we could see.
Yeah, Robin already knows exactly what he needs to do. He promotes the Jirachi without the escape board, knowing that he will always be using his rope this turn, and he can just go into his second Jirachi and then Cynthia if he wants to. He's picked up Volkner. Volkner could get him Lightning Energy Zapdos with a Nest Ball. He currently is holding on to 2 Electro Powers, so that is reaching a reasonable number for the Zeraora GX in the back. We'll see if he wants to try and do anything else here. If he wants to fire off a Cynthia instead and dig that way, that's the alternate route. You can see he's counting up damage counters with these Electro Powers in the back.
It's turning into a lot.
Yeah. The only other thing is Robin may not know if he has another Zapdos in his deck, because a couple have been knocked out. He's actually choosing to take nothing here, so that tells me that he's going to be Cynthiaing this hand. Goes into his escape boarded Jirachi. He's going to throw that down. The third Jirachi. Just getting as many usages out of this Stellar Wish as possible.
It's unfortunate. He did have quite a bit of additional damage in that hand, but forced to throw it back because he doesn't have anything to actually attack with right now. Like you were saying, he might not be sure if he has the available Zapdos,
Yeah, it may be in his prize cards. I can't remember what was in his prizes. I didn't see. I remember the Absol was the standout card that was prized. You never really paid too much attention to the Zapdoses because there's 3 and you feel like he's always going to have access to them. But
and if he were to attack with Buzzwole this turn, he would also need the Beast Energy or the Rainbow, and he finds Buzzwole and the Beast Energy and the Choice Band even.
That's all. That's amazing. That is the perfect hand. He's even got himself Blitzel as well to try and establish his Striker for next turn. To just get even more draw going in this hand. But that is a huge Cynthia. Robin whiffing every time game 1. It's
finally getting rewarded
this game.
And you were saying he wanted to see if he had a Jolteon or see if he had a Zapdos left. He did find that off of the Cynthia as well as the Buzzwole and a way to attack. So suddenly he has all of the utility from Stellar Wish. He has the ability to lock down his opponent's Stellar Wish, and he's found these important attackers. So things are definitely starting to come together here for Robin.
This is insane. This is exactly why Robin is playing the all non-GX build. You have to fall prey to Sledgehammer at some point. Game 1, Klive was able to get around it, but here Robin identified that escape rope play very early, and now he's getting the full benefit here. 1 energy, 2 prize cards on a non-GX attacker.
Now that's value.
That's value right there. Shrine continuing to take its toll as well on a Jolteon GX, and Klive's board is looking pretty miserable at this point.
Robin with 2 prizes left remaining, Klive with 4, and now you're starting to see this differential really be incredibly impactful.
Klive having to Volkner here. He simply can't allow this Buzzwole to stay on the field unless he's going to take a prize elsewhere, so he's going to have to grab himself an Electro Power and an Energy, but even then the Jolteon is looking pretty fragile. He's actually going to go ahead and grab himself an Ultra Ball. His alternate route is using Aero Trail perhaps and get some other attack off instead. Yeah, he's going to think better of it and goes for the Electro Power instead here. But Shrine's
it's just
been ticking
too clean.
away. Yeah. Shrine's been getting in range. Robin still has a lot of Electro Powers available to him.
Jolteon softened up to 170. As soon as Buzzwole's taken off of the board, Robin will have room to bench that Zapdos.
There's potential for... Well, I mean, it's actually pretty far away. But yeah, it looks like he's going to be looking for Electro Power things.
Like Choice Band double Electro Power onto a fresh Zapdos.
Feels in his range, even though there's... The one thing for Klive, at the very least, is that there's an Absol now, so it may be a little bit more awkward for Robin, but that's really about it.
I mean, it sounds like having an additional 90 damage is a lot, and it sounds like that should be difficult, but when you're Stellar Wishing multiple times every single turn, you're able to search these tools out. Suddenly it's a hell of a lot easier. I mean, he's got Choice Band and Electro Power in hand already.
Yep, and he can be sprinting as well this turn. His 1/1 line of Zebstrika so helpful for just digging even deeper into the deck. I'm a huge advocate of the Zebstrika sprinting away. It gives you some protection against Absol as well, because you can escape board this card, and now your escape boards are no longer just dead weight as soon as you see an Absol hit the field. So Robin's got a lot of the deck that you can see here with potentially, once again, multiple Jirachis and a sprint on top of that. And he's already looking at Zapdos and 1 Electro Power at least in his hand. So he's looking in good shape for the closing parts of this game.
Yeah, the issue that I'm seeing emerging after that, though, is we've got about 7 minutes left in the round, and this has been a rather slow game. So I don't know that I'm seeing Robin being able to close out game number 3, even though it looks like he should be able to take this game number 2.
Well, here's Electro Power Choice Band Sprint. He has
Find 1 more Electro Power.
Yeah, Electro Power Energy and a switching card. Well,
there's Switch. There's a Rainbow Energy.
So just a Jirachi dig away. He also has Lily as well, because he's just sprinted so far, so he has a lot of options to see more of his deck.
Good chance that he's able to find it, but not off of that Stellar Wish.
Good. Maybe he takes the Cynthia over the Lily, though. He can play a decent amount of cards out of his hand, but the Cynthia sees more than Lily.
Plus, he doesn't really need the other cards in his hand other than the Energy.
Yeah, he'll just play down Energy, probably just play Switch and then Cynthia. It means he doesn't have any other Jirachis to use, but it's just 6 cards to try and find Electro Power. I believe he's only played 2 so far.
1 in the discard, 1 that he's played this... It's just the 1 that he's played this turn, I think.
There's 2. There's definitely 2
okay.
in there. So again,
so 2
it's a big
remaining in the
Cynthia.
deck.
It worked out well for him last time. We're actually seeing him put more cards into his deck first. That's interesting. I mean, it's the same amount of outs. You've stretchered. Well, the stretcher would go straight back into your deck, and now it's just a Zapdos instead. Doesn't really make a huge amount of sense to me, though, because you've basically just removed options away from yourself. The stretcher's never going to be a bad card in comparison to just a Zapdos. They're essentially the same amount of deck spaces, and this way you've basically said it's only a Zapdos, whereas Rescue Stretcher is so much more. Yeah.
6 fresh cards off of the Cynthia. Does he hit the Electro Power? He does not. Okay. Now things get a little bit difficult.
So he hasn't won. That's the bad news. But there is going to be a heavily damaged Jolteon GX, and there's still Shrine of Punishment in here as well. Klive throwing damage counters around. And we're at
180 after the end of the turn?
It's actually at 190. That's insane. Geez. So he's essentially saying, Klive, do you play heal cards?
Do you play Acerola?
Yeah, we're going to see him benching what looks to be a Pikachu and Zekrom tag team. See Energy Switch. Klive simply can't win this game.
Even if the Jolteon goes to the bench, Shrine of Punishment will get it on the turn change.
Let's see a skateboard and then switch. He's actually going to choose to go into the Absol, even though Robin has his own Absol down. Let's see a Lily for 4 cards. There's a Thunder Mountain Prism Star. I think an Escape Rope as well.
Okay, so that does get rid of the Shrine of Punishment.
Yeah, force the Guzma from Robin next turn, or another Shrine of Punishment at the very least.
This does allow for the Pikachu and Zekrom to be able to attack.
We're going to see Let Loose as well. Okay, so he's trying to make it as difficult as possible for Robin to find Stadium or Guzma for game. Klive is essentially just going to, I imagine, he'll just throw 3 more energies onto his active and say, well, Robin, you have 1 turn. You've been let loose. Can you find the win? But Robin's board state is strong. He has Sprint to fall back on. He has Jirachi to fall back on. So there's still a lot of outs that Robin can hit, even if it's not off this initial 4 cards.
Find draw supporters, could Stellar Wish for...
there's a Shrine of Punishment and a Guzma.
Okay, well, there you go. That's going to be game 2. Over to Robin Schulz, but just under 4 minutes remaining in the round means that this one is likely going to be a draw. That's kind of unfortunate. I would have really liked to see an actual finish to this series, but you're playing against the clock sometimes, and these are not necessarily very fast decks, especially when Klive is forced to take his prizes one at a time.
Yeah, I mean, that's the benefit and disadvantage of playing Robin's build. 6 physical prize cards means the game is difficult for your opponent to win, but if they do win, it's going to be difficult for you to win in 3 games. And Klive knows the matchup all too well. He's identifying his 1/1 line of Jolteon GX to be a big part player in this matchup, whereas not all the other Pikachu and Zekrom decks are even playing this, so Klive has given himself a really good chance at beating other non-GX Zapdos builds, so I really like his tech choice here. Both him and Clifton have demonstrated how powerful of a card Jolteon GX is. Even though it's kind of just a small tech option, it really does carry its weight because it usually is taking 2 or 3 prize cards off its own back, and it's usually just super efficient at racing for the most part, and you still have all your own Zapdos and Jirachis in the deck, so you can basically play a mirror match situation when you're up against one of Robin's builds, and when you're up against more GX heavy builds, you're going to go Pikachu route.
But that is the only copy of Eevee in the deck in the prizes for Klive. That could be potentially game-losing if he was going to be trying to ride out that Jolteon to victory again this game.
It's pretty awkward. Robin prized his Buzzwole as well, though, so neither of them too pleased. Or, well, they don't know yet, but they won't be too pleased. We see Klive fire off an Electro Power early, just so we can draw more cards from Lily turn 1. We're going to see Ultra Ball throwing away what looked to be Lightning Energy Choice Band. It's so difficult to tell when everything's nice and golden, but Klive says there's not much time on the clock. Let loose. It's probably his best chance of winning the game, to be honest. He knows that the game 1 and 2 have gone pretty long. Robin hasn't started a Jirachi, so he's literally limited to just 5 cards.
So if Klive can take a knockout on an active and Robin does not have a Pokemon that he can back up, then Klive will win the game.
And it's going to be scary for Robin here. Just 4 random cards, no real protection.
Playing to all the outs here, and he does pick up a Nest Ball.
Nest Ball for Jirachi is always a play. He's got himself Switch Rope, a few different things. So he's not just completely dominated by this Let Loose. But it's still not exactly a stellar hand for him.
This one still could be close, I would say. It's Klive's game to win at this point.
Yes, Klive's put down so many Pokemon that he's not losing this game. It's either he can stop Robin from doing enough to stay alive for just a couple turns, or Klive's going to take a very late victory here, as Robin is going to go ahead, grab himself Nest Ball for Jirachi, and he's going to look for his deck very quickly, but he must also be aware of time at this point.
About 30 seconds remaining on the clock here.
Feels
Robin
like
getting a good lay of what he's actually got remaining in his deck. Probably going to take note that the Buzzwole is not there.
Yeah, definitely something that you keep your eye out for. Nihilego, Buzzwole, Rainbow Energy Counts, also your Prism Star cards. There's so many individual cards that are important in his deck list. It's never easy for him to go.
He's playing a
slowly.
lot of one-of Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to
Just
know
see
where
the
they
escape
are
rope
at
early.
any point in time.
This could help slow down Klive as well.
Klive has to make that switch as well.
Now it's one Stellar Wish. Let's see if he can get a better supporter than just Guzma. We've seen this turn one every time for Robin. No draw support in hand. Can Jirachi get him there? Finally in game 3 it does.
Basically, if Robin finds another Pokemon to put on his bench, Robin will probably get the tie.
Yes. And
Because
I believe,
it's looking like Klive could realistically take 2 knockouts here. And they realize that this game is not going to end decisively in either fashion in the remaining 3 turns. So that is going to be a draw here in Swiss round number 5. World champion in the Masters division, Robin Schulz, up against semifinalist at the World Championships, Klive Awe, going to a draw here. That means that they are now still not going to have lost a match, which is very impressive going into round number 6 on the day. And remember, we do play 9 total Swiss rounds today, so both of these guys still in fabulous contention for making day 2. Looking really strong.
Yeah, for the last 4 rounds, they basically need to go 2 wins, 2 losses, and they're still in. So they've bought themselves a lot of lifelines for these 5 rounds, so it feels pretty safe for them. And I think I was really impressed by Klive there, to be honest. I think it was Robin's game